Wonder Woman 1984 is a bad movie, but it can be better. Yeah, seriously though, I just finished watching Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas, and I was really disappointed with this film. So much that I was racking my brain on how to fix the film. And honestly, it requires a bit of cinematic surgery in order to make the movie a little bit more coherent. But I was able to come up with two large major changes that would eventually also affect two other small changes. So I'm going to try to go over all four of them, and it's going to take a little bit of cinematic surgery in order to make this all happen. So let's get started. The first major change has to be Steve Trevor's return. The movie basically has a magical wishing artifact created by a dark god. So the wishing magic system basically makes it so that if you wish for something, something else happens as well. You know, they don't really explore with every single wish in this movie, but Diana's is that she wants Steve Trevor back. So in the movie, he comes back in the form of an engineer, handsome man, who basically hijacks his body. So I would keep this aspect, but I would change it so that he's an older man. Someone like Liam Neeson, you know, like 60s, pushing 70, still handsome, but people would give them weird looks on the street, and but Diana wouldn't care. And the monkey's paw cursed thing would be that he's an older man, but it's not quite Steve Trevor, you know, it's quite the strapping lad from 1916, right? So you could also have a shock back to reality moment where Diana and Steve are, you know, enjoying life, but maybe the man's son comes to visit him and he's all like, who's this woman? They need to like shatter the illusion that Steve Trevor is really back. That would be a great sort of monkey's paw curse. Instead of the one we got in the movie, which the one we got in the movie was Diana basically loses some of her powers and she's weakened, but maybe by half. So she can't deflect all the bullets. She's ineffective in fighting. She can't defeat a superpowered Barbara Minerva. You can still keep all of the funny stuff. You got the montage of him getting dressed, him being enraptured by all the future stuff in 1984. But then you have to change the way he says goodbye to Diana. I would make it so that she doesn't have to renounce her wish before the finale. She should have to come to terms with the fact that if she stops Maxwell Lord, all of the wishes go back to nil and she's going to lose him again, something that she doesn't want. However, they can still have a better moment than the one they had in the movie. In the movie, there's a riot or something, and basically, you know, they kiss and then she renounces her wish to get her powers back. That's a little rushed. It's not emotional. It didn't work for me. I didn't feel anything. So I would rewrite that entire scene by having instead Steve Trevor jumps into the invisible jet with her. She's got the armor on, like the gold winged armor, and then they fly over to the naval base or wherever Maxwell Lord is going to do the final broadcast. And then they can have a nice mirror image to the first film, because in the first film, Steve Trevor had to sacrifice himself and she had to watch while battling the god of war. Planes remind her, flight reminds her of like what she lost. But this time they get to have one final ride together on their own terms. It would be really more poetic, I feel. Also, the invisible jet would make it so that they could get close to the base and then Diana could jump down. So since we're rewriting this whole scene, I would definitely like to axe the Wonder Woman flying scene. It doesn't make any sense. It probably Patty Jenkins wanted to homage Superman again, but she's getting to the point where she's doing it too much. And I would also cut out the lightning lassoing thing. And, you know, while we're at it, we should eliminate the Cairo action sequence entirely because it doesn't really do anything to the plot. And instead we could move that action sequence to the base at the end before she faces Barbara. And she should have an extended sequence where she uses the gold armor more. So she uses the armor to protect herself from like heavy ordnance, machine gun fire. Then she takes out all the soldiers non-lethally. And that leads on to the second major change. The second major change being Barbara Minerva does not transform into the Cheetah. I know this sounds crazy. It's obviously not visual, but it's too rushed. One of my biggest problems with Barbara Minerva becoming the Cheetah was it happens off screen in 2 seconds. That's not enough. Cheetah, like the whole mythology behind it, is like a curse from like a jungle temple artifact or something. It's like another artifact with a curse. It's not the wishing rock. So they should have saved the Cheetah for the third movie and instead have superpowered Barbara Minerva fight Diana outside of the base or whatever. And obviously it's not as cinematic having just regular Christian wig with powers, but it would still have the boss battle of sorts, which people wanted. And this time Diana hands Barbara her ass. She's got the gold armor too. So then she can go in and have her little fight with Maxwell Lord. And the small change that happens because of this would be with the Maxwell Lord finale. In the movie, she wraps the lasso around Max Lord's ankle, and she's able to give a heart-rousing speech to the entire world to tell everyone to renounce their wish, including Max Lord. But instead, they should change it so that Max Lord renounces his wish, and therefore it should negate everyone else's wish. That would make it way better. That way, Barbara, maybe she got incapacitated outside, and Diana traps her with a steel beam or something, wraps it around her. And then, she escapes from that, and then she loses her power after. And it would give her great motivation to find the artifact that would turn her into the Cheetah in the third movie. That'd be a perfect post-credit sequence. I even wrote a post-credit sequence. You could have her in the jungle, Barbara. She's with that Mayan guy from earlier in the movie. And he gives her a warning, like, we shouldn't be doing this. But then we cut to the people behind them are mercenaries. Kidnap this Mayan guy, and they're looking for the artifact. Simple end credit sequence right there to set up the third movie properly. Not just, I want to be an apex. Is that what she said in the movie? I want to be an apex predator. Turns him into a cheetah the next scene. Another small sequence that has to be changed, though, is the Max Lord and the satellite. So when Max Lord goes to the Oval Office, he gives the president nukes in exchange for the full powers of the Oval Office. And then in the background, there's all this charts and stuff. And Max goes, "What is this?" And he's like, "These are satellites." Basically, in 1984, the American government created this satellite system that can hijack any broadcast system in case they need to speak to terrorists who have hijacked something, which is a cool idea. But they decided to go a little too far by having it the satellite emits hard light particles, so he's technically touching them. You don't need to have that. Instead, you keep the satellites. They can talk to anyone in the world, and Max Lord plans to go to this base, announce his wish thing to the world, and he can ask Barbara to wish for that because she made her wish on a rock, right? So she could technically get a second wish still. So she shouldn't wish to be Cheetah. He should ask her for help and say, "I want you to wish so that anyone who wishes in the world doesn't need to be touching me in order for me to grant them their power." And that would give him the ultimate edge. So when he takes over all the broadcast, then because Barbara made the wish, he should be able to grant any wish in the world and gain supreme power. And then that would be a lot more grounded than what we got in the movie. So these changes would definitely streamline the movie a little bit more for a more coherent thing, but also adds a lot of emotional and dramatic heft for certain characters, right? Steve Trevor, when he comes back, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just in someone else's body. He can live forever if he wants to. But if you put him in an older body that, has a time limit, you can also add in a sort of hindrance thing where it's not the same Steve Trevor from 1916. He's got an older body, he can't keep up. Maybe he's a bit of a liability in the White House. It would also add more of an emotional angle when Max Lord offers him a wish when they're fighting. Something small like that can definitely make it better. It would also impact the more emotional part of having their goodbye. And you could also have an extra sequence after the movie of the Liam Neeson character sitting in a plane confused because he's got his body back, and Diana knows that he's gone. But this time they were able to get the extra time that they wanted in the first film. It would definitely make things not as rushed and not as bloated, and I think these changes would definitely, they could have been done, honestly, in a rewrite, definitely. I just feel that maybe Patty Jenkins had a little bit too much control this time, because I noticed that she had a lot more homages to Richard Donner's Superman, such as the mall sequence, the flying sequence. There was just way too much of that. Same goes for the Superman 2 plotline, where Superman gives up his powers in order to be with Lois, and he can't stop the villains. That's also used in this movie. There's just way too much borrowing from Superman 2 and Spider-Man 2. So, unfortunately, Wonder Woman 1984 will not go down as one of the better DC movies, but I think if they were to make these changes, they could have made a much more streamlined, better film. Honestly, if you look back, it's not much different than the actual plot. It's not like I took out anything. I just rearranged some things around. So that's how I would do a little cinematic surgery to fix Wonder Woman 1984.